Hello and welcome to the Nitty Kitties channel. I'm Netty. Now I thought I'd put a video together about different types of paper. Maybe you use alcohol markers or colour pencils or watercolour. I thought hopefully someone will stumble on this who's not too sure what paper to buy for what material. Now these little pads here, and they're rather sweet, are great for samples of paper. Now they're from a place called Jackson's Art Supplies, which is in the UK. So if you're unsure about what paper to get, that's the big daddy version of that little one. It may be a help just to get some of these together. Now they're usually about no more than £1 or £2, but they are great for trying all your different swatches on for your colour pencils and different art supplies, just to see and get a grip of which paper is best for you, so you don't splurge on a whole pad, which some of them can cost a lot. Now they're all of different thicknesses and things like that. I'll put a link in the description for Jackson's Art Supplies. I'm not sponsored or affiliated by them at all. See, now that's a heavy one. Now and a black as well, which is brilliant. Lots of different paper samples to try. So if you're, say, quite heavy-handed like myself, you'll see in some of my other videos, I like to use a lot of layers of colour pencil, so I need a heavier paper, a thicker paper. Now all the prices and the GSM and the weight of the paper in pounds I shall put in captions below as they come up. Now by GSM I mean grams per metre. So we've got 3 different sections here. We've got marker paper, colour pencil paper and watercolour. Now with some of them you can use all different types of art supplies on the one paper, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now the Arteza one I'll talk about more in my previous video if you want to see that. Now this is a selection pack from Jackson's Art Supplies, which can be for, do you say gouache? Gouache paint, watercolour, colour pencil. Now that paper there in that pack also comes in a variety of sketchbooks, and it's got 1 sheet of each there, and like I say, they're no more than £1 or £2. Sometimes it's like 15-20p for 1 sheet, so brilliant to practice on and do some swatches on to see if it suits you, or it's too thick or too thin, or you need thicker paper. Now honourable mention here is a De La Rowley sketchbook I've got. Now that has been great for different types of media. I've used colour pencils in it, just your normal HB pencil, and also these which are from Spectrum Noir. I haven't done a video about them yet, but they're a pen which also acts as a watercolour. So that's the mixed media title there. Now obviously this doesn't cover every single paper in the whole world, it's literally just what I've got lying around, and I thought it might help someone who needs more info on, you know, different budgets and stuff. Obviously there was different budgets there. Now I got that off Amazon and it wasn't any more than £10 at the time, I think, but hopefully you find something similar if you're into your mixed media. Now this next one is for working with metallics. Now that is a little sample there from Jackson's Art Supplies, and it's lovely paper. I think I've tried it on one, and I used these markers here, and it came up. If you use them on white paper, you'll notice the difference. You could also use the metallic watercolours on them as well, which came up lovely. The difference between white paper and black. Now this is the cheaper version which I got in the works, which is in the UK. Now I've done some stuff on it, like white just pops brilliantly, and also the metallics there. You can see how much it brings out the metallic shine on them, so I highly recommend. And you get 30 sheets with that as well. Now also Spectrum Noir do these little pads here which are great if you just want to colour in, and I use their own brand metallic colour pencils as well, so yeah, lovely paper, really good. It's not the cheap quality one, it's really good, but I shall find more black paper and hopefully there'll be some more recommendations coming soon. This is a bit of a mixed category, but it's all marker pens. Now this particular paper is just for a specific type of pen, which I've actually done a video on. It's one which has got more light fast to it, so it's gonna preserve a lot longer, and that's by Winsor & Newton. Now they are weird pens. I find that they don't work on any other paper apart from this, and it's really thin. If you're going to display it, I don't know, there's something about it which is just, but you can keep them for years and they won't fade. Now this one I found on Amazon, it's quite thin but it doesn't bleed, and by bleed I mean when you do your line work, the alcohol marker doesn't bleed outside that line. I don't mean bleed through the paper on the other side. I believe that's what they mean too, but yeah, when I say bleed, that because it's annoying when you lay down the colour and you see the colour starting to seep through the lining that you've done. Now this is the one I really like, it's Winsor & Newton. They're branding it as their Pro marker, but I've used other alcohol marker brands on it and it's lovely. I use this and I recommend it for my Redbubble drawings, which they do a fan art program. If anyone wants any info on that, I'll do a video, but anyone can join and you can do fan made artwork which is official for different brands, so I highly recommend that. I'll leave a link in the description to talk more about that. Now also noting on that as well, Spectrum Noir do a alcohol marker paper which is a bit cheaper again, and I do recommend that, and it's a bit thicker. Now our colour pencil category, Stonehenge there do some wonderful ones. Now it's a bit easier on the eye when it's toned coloured paper, I find, which is why I tend to use it more, especially as I do portraits of faces rather than other things, more than anything. Now they do these samples in Jackson's Art again, which are all different thicknesses, and so there's so many of them so many of them. They do different thicknesses and different tooth of the paper. Now by the tooth of the paper, I'll explain that a bit at the end of the video, but if you're heavy-handed like me and you like to do lots and lots of layers, the thicker the paper and the grainier it is, the better that's going to help you. But if you want a smoother paper and you're not using as many layers, you're a bit lighter handed as such, that you'll find that different papers will suit you. But again, these are just brilliant for just trialing, and you can find a paper that you really like and is suited to you without splurging out a lot of cash. So my favourite ones, and I find it easier to less stressy to draw in it. It's not stressy at all, but if I'm doing a portrait, I tend to be easier on myself if I'm doing it in a sketch pad, and this toned tan one by Strathmore has been brilliant. And also the toned grey one, I've really liked it, and the thickness of the paper has been just right for me, and I hope if anyone else is heavy-handed, now that might help. Now this one, not so much, unfortunately. It seems like it's a good competitor by looking at the two side by side, that they'd be quite equal. But the Arteza one, I don't know if it's light fast. Allegedly the Strathmore is. I found it really thin, and I've done a video on Arteza, and there's another one coming up at part 2 in about a month's time. See how now please somebody tell me, is that just me, or see that on the other side of it? And again, I'll show you again. Now on this portrait, I've done too many layers, and it showed through several bits of the paper in the book and completely ruined it, so never mind. But with the toned grey, the Strathmore, much better. Now you see on the front of it, it's got the white highlight on the grey, and the white really pops, so that was the selling point. I hope that helps, and it just makes it less, I don't know, easier going if you're drawing in a sketchbook. Now, watercolour section. This particular paper here is like a transparent one, so if you do make a mistake, you can wipe it clean again. And I believe a lot of the brand of this paper, it isn't from trees, it's recycled and from different materials, and so it's all different thicknesses. And also with watercolour paper, you don't want it to warp at all, especially if you're going to display it. There's nothing worse than looking at your display in a gallery and it's all warped and everything. So a lot of these papers will have things in them which will stop that happening, and it can take a lot of water as well. So whatever you're looking for with your watercolour. Now this one as well is actually handmade paper. So there's been a lot of care gone into making them. So that's lovely paper, and it is quality. I think it is more the expensive side. And again, more of that brand again in a little pack there. Highly recommend. And it just, I think it saves so much stressing about which pad should I buy, when you can go and buy a few of these little samples and be able to decide for yourself which one you prefer. So brilliant. And then you don't have to buy it from that place in my Jackson's Art Supplies, please don't shout at me, but it doesn't specifically mean that you have to go to that shop. You can maybe find it somewhere else. I mean, a lot of local craft shops might have that cheaper again, so, and it's good to support independent shops. I mean, Jackson's Art Supplies are an independent shop in their own right, but they're online, which is more accessible. Now these are fantastic as well, these samples from this brand here. That one is very much like sandpaper, if that's of help to anyone. It depends what you're looking for your project, doesn't it, and how much water you lay down and how much water you need the paper to take. And I think one of them even goes up to 500 plus GSM, grams per metre, so it can take a lot of water and it won't warp. So again, brilliant for doing little projects on and things like that. So see the thickness of that, I tried to see if there was 2 pieces there, so that was one whole piece. And probably no more than 20-35p at the time I bought them, but I'll provide all that in the description. So I've just got a pen here actually, which is a liner pen. I'm going to explain to you what tooth is of a paper if it hasn't been explained before, you've not been able to find it anywhere. So if you can imagine putting a piece of paper under a microscope. To us, a piece of paper looks just smooth, but if you were to put it under a microscope, this is what it looks like jagged teeth. So depending on the thickness of the paper or the coarseness of it, the tooth it's referred to, it will be different amount of teeth under there that you'll see. So they might be bigger, or just depends what one you go for. So I'll just do a bigger diagram there, and I'll show you with these colour pencils from Black Widow, and there's a little swatch there if you want to see that. Now I have again done a video on Black Widow pencils. If you want to see it, it's on the channel. So you lay down your first layer of colour pencil. Now can you see there's still bits of the tooth which it hasn't even reached? So these bits here, you can still see it. Now what that is when you lay a layer of colour pencil down, you can still see the white paper through it, and that's the tooth showing through. So the harder and more layers that you apply, the less of the white is going to show through. And if you use a lot of layers of different colour pencils, shading them lighter and darker, there's less white going to be showing, and you're filling in more of that tooth of the paper. So if you're a heavy-handed person like me with layers and with colouring in, see like that, I'm using the hardest pressure there, you won't be able to see that white through. Now I needed to find actually a paper which had a lot more tooth to it and coarseness. You'll feel the tooth with the coarseness of the paper, to put in as many layers as I could, because that Arteza paper just wasn't doing it for me, so with the portraits. So I hope that helps explain the tooth of the paper a bit, and maybe a bit more of, if you've stumbled upon this and you're trying to find suitable paper to do your different projects with, it's explained it in layman's terms, you know, and in a friendly manner, hopefully. So anyway, that's the as best as I can explain it in a video, and it's there if someone finds it and they need it. Hopefully you found the right place. Now I have been working on another channel, and it's my cooking channel, which is another one of my passions, Any Art Netty Cooking. Thought it was worth mentioning at the end of this video. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to see it. I do little bits of art in that as well, and there's a downloads page, brand new actually, download page on Facebook, where you can download the recipes and the colouring in sheets and things like that, and it brings in a little bit of art into cooking. So say if you're waiting for something in the oven to cook, you can do a bit of art while you're waiting. That's what I like to do. So this is the logo you're looking for, and this is the intro to the channel, so that's brand new. So that's another thing I've been working on. And oh, thank you new subscribers and people who've joined Any Art Netty downloads and everything like that. It's all a big help, and a big thank you and hello to you, and thank you for watching and supporting the channel, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.